So as you all know, on this channel, I aim to teach and inspire you guys to finish and publish bigger and better games. That said, there comes a time in every developer's journey where we're creating our dream game and randomly we just don't have the energy or motivation to continue developing it. So we add it to the pile of other hundreds of unfinished projects. It sucks. We put ourselves down for it. So I want to take some time today to talk about motivation, why we lose it, and how you guys can overcome it to finish and launch your next big game. So there's a few reasons why we lose motivation while developing our projects. The main one I've gone through at least is that sometimes I'll come up with a better idea for a new project. So what happens is I'll be developing a project, let's say, and I'm like, oh, that's cool, blah, blah, blah. And then I'll say, oh, you know what else is cool? You know, a pirate game. And, you know, subconsciously, I'm like, dude, you're developing a medieval RPG. Why are you thinking about pirates? And then what happens is I put that medieval RPG game on hold and I say, okay, pirates are cool. Let's make pirate game instead. And I never come back to the other game. So it's not a bad thing. I think it's actually a good thing to be, you know, constantly innovating and iterating on your ideas. Something that would be better to do is probably just say, oh, I want to add pirates. Let me add that into this game somehow. If you can, if you can't, let's say it's completely contrasting ideas, then it's probably a good idea to just write that on a sticky note somewhere, stick it on your wall, and finish the game you're working on currently. At least bring it to a point which you can, you know, put it out. And then once you've put it out, then develop your next game. That way you already have your products lined out as well. The other one is lack of skill. And I'm not saying this to make it sound like, you know, beginners can't make good games or anything like that. It's that sometimes we'll come up with an idea which we know is beyond our, you know, capabilities, beyond our scope. For example, if I stood up now and said, I want to make the next Elder Scrolls game, you know, it's one of me. The previous Elder Scrolls game spent who knows how many billions of dollars and how many employees for that me to put that sort of pressure onto myself to be able to create a game that bit is just unrealistic. It is good to set your dreams big, obviously. You know, I'm not saying, you know, you have to make a tiny game. You can make a big game, but just be aware that the bigger your idea, the more time, the more effort, and the harder it's going to be. So make sure that when you're planning a game like that, that your skills also align to it. If it doesn't, at least you gave it a go. I'm sure that within developing that, you would have at least learned something. So, you know, there's a win in there somewhere. Burnout is a big one. And it's I think burnout is one of the main ones that, you know, it's something that affects us more mentally because we then just don't have the effort to do anything. And this is, you know, I guess this fits into every aspect of life apart from just development as well. And I want to do a separate video talking specifically about burnout. But something that I do want to stress is you shouldn't get burnout confused with laziness. There's plenty of videos talking about this as well. I don't know why I'm mentioning it. But, you know, if you're someone who's generally quite productive and always, you know, doing something, getting stuff done, and suddenly you wake up one day and you just have zero energy to do anything, just be aware that you're probably in burnout. You're not being lazy. It's completely normal as well. In those times, it's probably just a good idea to take a break, which I'll get into later as well. The other big one is lack of time. You know, some of us, most of us have school going on, uni, you know, family, work, who knows. You know, everyone's got stuff to do in their life, and sometimes life gets in the way of development, and that's fine as well. It's just something that, you know, development is another type of work. It's good to plan your days out so you can say, all right, this hour here, I'm going to work, you know, without distractions on my game. And even if it's just an hour a week, it's better than nothing. So, you know, once that time builds up, you say, okay, well, I haven't worked on the game for a month. I'm not bothered, or I don't want to go work back on that game again. Or, you know, sometimes it's just we forget what we wrote. So when we open the game, we're a bit overwhelmed with the code we had previously, or, you know, whatever structures we had in place. And so we get kind of, you know, unmotivated to continue on it because it doesn't feel like it's one of our goals anymore, if that makes sense. I'm sure a lot of you guys can relate to these points as well. So if you're regular on the channel, you'll know that I recently started developing my dream solo indie game. And I also recently started losing motivation to develop. So this is quite a fitting video to make. As someone who has lost motivation and regained motivation, I want to be the first to tell you guys that it's completely normal. So don't, you know, put yourself down, don't beat yourself up for it. You know, everyone goes through it, even professional game devs all the time. What I found that worked for me when I was in this phase of just like, yeah, look, things are not working how I wanted it to work. It's not going the way I want it to go. It's kind of, you know, it's a bit messy, blah, blah, blah. I took a break for about a period of probably about a month, or maybe just under a month, I didn't open the project. I didn't touch it. And I kind of just, I didn't avoid it, but I was still thinking about it. And this is the main thing I want to stress. Like, just because you're not working on it doesn't mean you have to completely forget about it and start something new. Sometimes it's good to just take a break, take a step back. And what I started to do was I started to polish it, because I realized that the main reason I didn't want to work on the game is because little things would annoy me. For example, let's say the animations are off, and it was things which I just wasn't bothered to fix. It definitely wasn't my really, really messy asset folder. But yeah, so I started to polish it. I fixed those broken animations. I synced things up properly. I looked at new methods to do things which I'd already done. But yeah, so that was for me. The other thing I did, which I mentioned in the tutorial series as well, which was I actually moved on to develop a completely new part of the game. So for example, I spent the first few weeks developing just the character controller, adding animations, everything to do with the character essentially. And then I got bored of it, like purely just bored. I got sick of working on the character, and I'm like, rather than starting a new project just because I'm bored of working on one thing, there's no point. I might as well just work on a different part of the game. Let me try something new. Let me freshen things up. Because as soon as I went from the character controller to, the level design or the world generation, it's a completely blank state. I can do whatever I want. It feels like a new project as well. And that's one thing I want to bring up is it's to overcome motivation. I think the best way is to just shake things up in development. And this ties into the other point, which is don't try to perfect everything. You'll notice that even in my devlog game, like I mentioned, I just moved on without finishing things 100%. And this seems kind of counterintuitive to what I just mentioned earlier. But what I'm trying to say is you shouldn't wait for your game to be perfect, or you shouldn't wait for the perfect time for things to happen. It's never going to be perfect. And that's something which is hard to admit to yourself as a developer, but you'll notice that even if you look at AAA games, they all are not perfect. They all have something wrong with them. And as a gamer myself, it does annoy me. However, as a developer, it's sometimes we just do have to move on. We don't have infinite time to work on a project. Sometimes it's good to just get something out there, see the feedback. If people are complaining about the bugs or the errors or simple inconsistencies, then it's good to fix it. And I'm not saying here put out a game which sucks, which everything breaks. No, that's not what I'm saying at all. But for example, if your animations aren't in sync with your player movement and you can't work out a way to fix it, then who cares? Move on. Because the more you stress yourself out on those little things, you could be developing another part of the game, or just because you can't fix that, you're gonna get stressed, unmotivated, etc., etc., and then your project starts to snowball and lands in the unfinished projects folder. So I just want to reiterate those 4 main points. Take a break, polish the bits which are stressing you out, or polish the bits which are broken and are unmotivating you to continue on that project. Shaking things up, super important. Work on something else if you're getting stuck on one thing. Move on to a different part of the project if you're getting bored of one part, and don't try to perfect every single thing. It's fine if it's a little bit off sync, maybe the sound effects are off, who knows, it doesn't matter. It's fine. It's not gonna kill you. You'll be okay. If someone complains about it, then you fix it. So I hope this video helped you guys a little bit, at least, or at least gave you guys some motivation to go back to some of those projects you've neglected for a while. If you did find something useful in this project, be sure to like it. If you want to see more things like this, subscribe. Let me know down below in the comments what you guys went through, any tips, tricks you guys had to overcome motivation. I'd love to hear it all. Be sure to join the Discord if you haven't already. It's a great place to share the projects you're working on now, or chat to other members of the community, other game devs. Get inspired, share your ideas, collaborate. We've got something for everyone. We just finished up one of our game jams, so a prize will be heading out to the winner within the next few days. I'll catch you guys in the next video. Take care and peace.